Another benefit of light is that it awakens. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Sabbath School Study Group. This is part number 2 of our 5-part series. We are looking at the gift of living wisely, especially in the end of days, especially in the time that we live. And it's good to know that we can. Now, it starts like it says there in verse number 1 of chapter 5 with following God. Check. So how can we do that? What's the blueprint for that? Well, one of the powerful promises that God has given us is that regardless of the darkness, there's always going to be light. And when we follow that light, when we have that light and seek that light, it will awaken us out of our slumber. Here in verse number 14 of Ephesians chapter 5, it says, "Wherefore he said, Awake thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light." That's what makes being a Christian so inspirational. It has its challenges, it has its difficulties, but the idea of always having a light, always having the way out or the way up. Because if we're seeking Christ, he's promised to do that for us. Because down here in verse number 13, it says, "But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. For whatsoever doth make manifest is light." So Christ is that great contrast, not the controversy. That's what the enemy does. But Christ is the contrast. He's that anvil that all of the hammers are supposed to be measured on. You know what an anvil is? Like that big metal piece of steel. And you can bang anything on it to shape it, but the anvil itself stays the same. Christ says, I'll be that anvil for you. I'll be that one who guides you, and you can use me as your standard when the people you thought you could trust, or even the organizations you thought you could trust, or the systems you thought you could trust, you can always count on him to be that light. And that's why I'm grateful that we can live wisely with this principle in mind. Compare whatever I need to do to what Christ did. And here down in verses 11 through 12, this is why we're counseled now. Once we've discovered light, once we've contrasted light with darkness, have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. I love how the Bible is always timely and how it cuts through the malaise of deception, which we talked about in the previous study. And one of the things that gives deception its strength is its secrecy. Whether you find it in a secret society, whether you see it in secret motives, or even in the secrets of our own broken human nature, the Lord has promised that whenever we discover darkness, that we're to reprove it, expose it. In other words, point the light at it. And pointing the light at it not only illuminates it, but it actually irradiates it. You know, that's how you deal with mold, right? And mold is not just a matter of letting air get to it, but one of the powers of the sun that God created is that it's actually able to heal. It breaks down, it destroys the mold. If we start pointing Christ and his word at what we are normally pointing opinion at, or academics at, or intellect at, we will find ourselves not only reproving or exposing the darkness, but we'll find ourselves overcoming it and being set free from it. Recognize that when we point the light at it, it's not just letting us know that that's not the way, but that light actually paves the way for the way forward. It shows us the way to walk in obedience. That's living wisely. We don't have to be deceived. So whether it's going into a ballot box, or whether it's going into your prayer closet, or going into a classroom, or going into a boardroom, point the light at what you're about to undertake, because it's in doing that that we will find ourselves receiving this promise, this gift, which is what? That's to always be awakened out of slumber, and to be alert, and to be alive. That's one of God's gifts that he's promised us to this end time church.